anyway, so the title is TrueCM, and this is my version of TrueCM. Okay, my goal is really to I hope all the practitioners, right, will have their own TrueCM, right? And it doesn't even have to be Chinese medicine; it could be any medicine, but it has to be true from the practitioner's heart. And to me, that's very, very critical. So today I have really, I mean, it's very, very honored. I feel very honored to be able to present my version of the TrueCM. So I separate into a few sections. The first section is the guiding principles that sort of governs everything that I do. Okay, so essentially I have 4 principles. So there's loving kindness, or universal energy, or God, or however you want to put it. And to me, loving kindness is everywhere, ever present at all times. When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're no matter what, it's all around us. It's fully accessible to anybody. Okay, loving kindness is everywhere. Heart of gold. Everyone has a heart of gold. Okay, not everyone has a heart of gold behaviors, but everyone has a heart of gold. And to me, this is so critical for me in the clinic, right? Because people come in, abused or abuse others, right? Do they have a chance, right? And to me, we all have a chance, right? Why? Because our heart is always golden. The third principle is purpose. We all have a purpose. What is our purpose is not important. The key thing is we all have a purpose at any moment, at any time, right? Everything that ever happened to us has a purpose. We may never know it, but it has a purpose. Does trauma has its purpose? Does suffering has its purpose? People wouldn't step in or wouldn't seek, without pain. So does pain have a purpose, right? So to me, everything has a purpose. Cancer patients, they would say, when I get well, then I will have a purpose. I say, no, you got it. You have a purpose right now in the midst of all your, recovery or struggling, right? Find purpose in there. And I think that's how we can best be empowered at any moment. And the fourth one to me is, something that we are educated or cultured to not have is our choice. We go to school at the age of 5, if we like drawing and we, begin to draw, at some point before we finish it, it's time to read, right? If we make a fuss, we're not a good student, right? We learn to suppress our choices, right? But when one can make a choice, for example, we can choose to love unconditionally, and all of a sudden, the world is open to us. We'll not be confined by other people's expectations and their constraints. So these 4 guiding principles sort of manifest into a lot of things that I do and I share. For example, love reveals. Okay, love doesn't heal, in my opinion, because we all have a heart of gold. Okay, we may feel, out of trauma or out of PTSD or out of abuse, we may feel like we're completely broken. But if we always have a heart of gold, then it's really a matter of how we can reveal that. So to me, love reveals. Then we can be sympathy free because everything has a purpose. There's no need for us to feel sorry for somebody, to feel like, oh, you shouldn't get this. There's no way, you don't deserve this, right? Instead, we'll be asking the questions that, is there a purpose for your experience, basically, right? So then to me, sympathy free is critical in clinic work. Okay, because we'll be seeing people, having tremendous experiences, right? And if we feel sorry, then to me, first of all, we're not contributing to that person's recovery, and second of all, we will be sinking ourselves at the same time. And to me, that's wounded healers. Vow to serve, right? Instead of help, right? Vow to share our experiences, right? So other people can sort of resonate and find their own truth. And the fourth one is the connection. How do we connect to people? And there's so many others I'm not going to go into, but the connection I like to mention. Okay. And to me, the predominant connection in the society is sympathy. You tell somebody, you have cancer, for example, the first, the normal response is, I am so sorry. And I literally met a lady who had cancer, and she said, you know what? Please don't feel sorry for me. This was the best thing that ever happened to me. It made me to change my lifestyle and everything else, right? So we're almost conditioned to sympathize, right? As if we care. And then there's empathy where we feel other people's, physical or emotional sufferings or experiences, right? And to me, if we sympathize and we have this tremendous empathy, ability, then we'll be suffering at the same time. Okay. Energies are always traveling in both directions, right? And then there's a concept of, I will be the, conduit for universal energy or loving kindness, and through me, I'm going to heal other people. And to me, it sounds really noble and good, but nobody is a pure conduit. So in the clinic, we practice sort of like a more compassionate connection. Is I connect to loving kindness, and through loving kindness, we connect to other people's heart goal. And we just do this. Okay, we do this with the in-train on. We do this by holding people. We do this by just be around them. Just be a pure support, right? This to me is magical. Okay, it's not magic, but it is magical, because through this, the person, the recipient of this sort of this connection will at first be very, very doubtful. It's like, what's going on? Why is this person holding me without doing anything, right? So essentially, we're providing stimulus to this person's body and emotions and soul, basically. And it's like, we're here. And that is a very, very strange feeling, right? And so once this person, from a body, soul, and spirit, standpoint, whatever standpoint, process all these stimulus and find out like, you know what? This person is not expecting anything. It's not trying to do anything to us. We can relax now. We can be centered and connect to loving kindness as well. And to me, that is the magic of, for example, in-trainer technique, right? So this is connection, right? So in the clinic, we truly practice it. We truly cultivate this connection all the time. And then I have a framework. Okay, it took me a while to probably like 7 years. There's a prior version of this, but somehow in the beginning of 2024, this came to mind, and I draw this, and I've been sharing this in the clinic. So to me, this is kind of the inner work of a being, of any person. Okay, so essentially we'll have 5 senses. We'll have the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, right? So stimulus will come in and we'll receive it. Okay, then it will actually go into our brain system. It will go through reptilian brain, limbic brain, midbrain, and left and right brain. Okay, in sequence actually. Okay, and this is important because from the time the stimulus comes in, for example, a car is coming, is going to hit us, for example, right? By the time we know the car is going to hit us is probably 0.2 to 0.8 seconds later. If we respond that way, we're going to have huge traffic or huge accidents all the time. Right? So luckily, we have reptilian brain that does the reflex, generate the commands, and try to take care of these things at the first moment without us knowing it, without us consciously knowing it. To me, there's a line basically cut through the midbrain, and below it is subconscious, and above it is conscious. And by all research that I can find, the subconscious is count for 95% of our brain capacity, right? So all these things are done in the background without us knowing it. So the reptilian brain, based on a set of reflex, some are born with, some are trained, for example, right? For example, we train martial art or we train balance, or if we're skateboarders or surfers, we'll have a different set of, additional set of reflexes that's available to us, right? And what the reptilian brain does is issue commands, okay? And what I find interesting in the clinic is these commands, if they're not executed at the moment of life and death situation, for example, they remain in our body. They continue to be in our body. They become pending reptilian brain commands that situate in our body. For example, if I'm pinned down and my reptilian brain command is going like, just go, 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 chop the throat, poke the eyes, and I couldn't do anything about it, right? After that incident, if I survive it, this hand always want to do something. This hand is just rigid. This hand just shake and, it's just, it seems like there's another force that's trying to move my hand. So in the clinic, we actually specifically address this condition, right? So, if in-trainer doesn't work, holding doesn't work, and there's this twitching of the hand or something like that, right? That we can feel, I would suspect there's a reptilian brain command or pending ones. Okay. And one up is our limbic brain. The limbic brain, based on a set of triggers, generate emotions. And these triggers are protective, persistent, and global, in my opinion. Okay. They're protective because they're installed to protect us. Okay, these triggers are not there to harm us, or they're not evil. We don't have a dark side inside of us, right? They're there to protect us. They're our most loyal protectors. Okay, if when we're young and we're playing, piano and we're playing well and we get ice cream, and when we don't, we get, a beating or something like that, right? A trigger is installed to protect ourselves, to protect us and say, okay, if dad's around, I play really good piano, okay? If authority is around, I play real good, right? So it's protective, and they're persistent. Dad may have been long gone, but anything I do in the face of authority, I am very, very anxious. I cannot relax. I sense danger. And they're global. It doesn't have to be my dad. It can be anybody that has the similar attribute as my dad. And that would generate the same emotion. Again, these are things that's well hidden in our subconscious, in my opinion. And the only access we have is emotion. Unfortunately, we separate emotions into positive and negatives, right? And we try to suppress the negative ones, right? And we try to pretend to have the positive ones, right? So what happens is these triggers that are trying to protect us will get more and more and more profound. It's almost like a barking dog, right? If we attend to this barking dog and say, oh, let me take a look, it's Uncle Bob, there's no issue. Thank you so much for reminding me. That's what emotions are for. They are messages for us to respond to. But if we start to kick the dog, to try to shut the dog up, right? Guess what? It will bark crazy. So in the clinic, emotion is a key for PTSD, for example, for trauma patients, right? I literally buy these, journals by the dozens and hand them out and say, please, any emotion that you feel, jealous, shame, hate, anger, fear, suicidal thoughts, write them down, describe them, embrace them. These emotions are coming out of your subconscious triggers. They are true to you. They are true to you. You may not like it, but they are true within you. And the only way to resolve these things is to embrace them. It's to truly say, these are my emotions. These are my triggers. And I'm not going to go by the societal rules or the whatever, what I'm supposed to. I'm just going to embrace fully completely my emotions. And honestly, this does wonders for many, many of my patients. Okay. All right. So moving up, this is what we normally bypass is our midbrain. The midbrain doesn't have a storage. The midbrain doesn't understand, in my opinion, doesn't understand the past or the future. They respond at the moment from our heart, right? And what it comes out with, the product of our midbrain is actually clarity. This profound clarity, like, this is what I'm going to do. And people ask, why are you doing this? What is it for? How is it going to benefit you? And right? And then our answer is, I don't know. I have no idea why this is so clear to me. I'm sure, everybody, a lot of people who are seekers have this profound sense that, this is what I'm going to do. And I have no idea why. And to me, these are the things that come out of midbrain. The midbrain, from the third eye, right? The midbrain is actually connected to the third eye in basically all religions, right? Is actually is our connection to the universe. So the stuff come out of midbrain, and I have no idea where it's coming out. Maybe Dr. JJ have some insight of this. Is it coming out of our subconscious, or is it coming out, or is it from our connection to the universe? This wisdom, the sense of clarity, the sense of peace, right? To me, this is what all seekers are looking for, right? And hopefully we all find it, right? And we won't have, in my opinion, we will have trouble finding it if we don't, fully embrace the truth within ourselves in terms of triggers and reflex and pending reptilian brain commands. So it is a journey for all of us, right? If we move up to left and right brain, which based on the past knowledge, okay, all the experience, all the education, all the culture, everything that we have ever learned, all the news, right? And we'll come out with judgments. So to me, this is the least reliable thing in the world is knowledge, because there's so much conflict. There's so much conflict within knowledge, so much, okay? There's a lot of conflict within our triggers as well. We all have these triggers to say, I want intimacy, but when we get close to intimacy, I have to kill it. Okay, we have conflicting triggers. We have conflicting knowledges. So how would this framework and all these products, okay, judgment, clarity, emotions, and pending, reptilian brain commands, they affect our channels and they go around, affect our body, they go around, affect our thoughts, okay, essentially our perspective of the world, okay. So within this framework, there's a suffering loop, okay. So once this loop is established, so for Raymond, this is the PTSD loop that I see, okay, this is the PTSD. Right. So the five senses, right, compared to this, the triggering event, the stimulus is long gone. Right. But because of this loop, right, let's say, this veteran as a soldier, the whole team was killed. Right. And he was present. Right. So that went through his reptilian brain, limbic brain, and the left and right brain, right? Affect his channels, goes, leads into the body, leads to his thoughts, right? Life is not safe. I have to be vigilant all the time, right? I am helpless, hopeless, right? And why am I surviving? And I mean, all these thoughts, right? And this could be 30 years ago, 50 years ago. But it's just like yesterday because of this loop, this infinite loop. Okay, so when people say there's a train or there's this clicking or this almost like a metronome, or it's just tick tock, it just continue this loop. They couldn't get out of this loop. It's because the midbrain or the Ren channel and the Du channels are not involved. The midbrain is not involved in this thing. Right. they continue this, what I term suffering loop. And this suffering loop can be big, can be small. And I see this in, just about every case. Okay, we all have some of this, I think, right? So from the suffering loop, we can get into epiphany loop if we start to use our midbrain. If we start to honor all our emotions, right? Honor all our reptilian brain commands, honor essentially our past experiences, right? And we say, what's the most empowering thing we can do at this moment? What's the most empowering thing we can do right now? To me, that's a very, very interesting question, because empowering, the word empowering is not understandable by our left and right brain, because it only understands right and wrong. Empowering is not, what do you mean by empowering? What is it? What's the right answer? There's no right answer. The most empowering thing can be the right thing or exactly the wrong thing. I was told by one of my friends, this is probably 30 years ago, he said, you know what? Every time I see like in Syracuse, Highway 17, a deer was struck, the neighbor will come out with a shotgun and just go boom. Okay? They will kill the deer right there. And that is empowering. So we don't know what the most empowering thing is unless we are in that situation. We are at the now, right? And left and right brain doesn't have now information either. Everything in the left and right brain is based, all the judgment the left and right brain does is based on prior knowledge or acquired knowledge. So when we ask the question, what's the most important thing we can do right now? Our midbrain will be activated. Because that question can only be processed by our midbrain. And once we ask that question, if we, put all our emotions in the journal, our body sensations in the journal, right? And we ask, I often do this is once I write everything, I would just basically say, what's the most important thing I can do right now? And I put question mark all over the journal. And I just wait. And to me, the midbrain started this connection, started to do its work, right? It will go into the, subconscious, at that time, I basically just trust my midbrain. And sooner or later, clarity will come up. I had a patient who texted me when I was in Oakland one day, and I was walking on the street, and I saw that text. It's like, John, I got 3 weeks to live. I looked at that text and I asked myself, what's the most important thing I can do? And I was looking at the sky, midway at the sidewalk. And about 5 seconds, 10 seconds later, this clarity comes up and it's like, hold his hand. And I went on to schedule to hold his hand, and he didn't die in 3 weeks. He died within a week because he was able to connect to loving kindness. He didn't suffer very much. So we all have opportunities to use our midbrain. If we activate it, it's really, really interesting. Yeah. So in the clinic, reaching or having epiphany is very, very simple, in my opinion. Okay. Most people have the epiphany quite easily. It's like we're here and all of a sudden we see that we can be there. Okay. To me, that's epiphany. It's like we can envision very clearly, like, oh, wow, we can be over there. Okay. We can be better. Okay. We can be loving. We can be loved, everything, right? However, when we start to go there, all our triggers will be triggers. Because, when we reach a steady state, essentially the triggers are, if we continue the original path, these triggers are okay. It's like, okay, what are you talking about? How can you trust people? Boom, it triggers. Okay, we're going to have profound, sense of fear or anxiety, like I am trusting a person, for example. I start to love, I start to feel emotions. To PTSD, that's not allowed. When bullets are shooting over your head and you have to protect yourself and everybody that you care about, you're not supposed to feel, period. Not just emotion, including your pain. So PTSD patients, the ones I treated, in the first session or 2 or 3, even 5 or 10, they have no feelings. Their body has no pain. You can you can poke them however you want. They say, just give it to me. I don't care. Because they have the ability to shut it down, right? But if they can envision them loving their kids, right, and stuff like that, right, all these triggers will be triggered. They will go from hypervigilant to almost panic state. So as practitioners, to me, this is important information, right? Because if the patient comes back and say, you know what, John, I was here last week and I feel so good, right? But 2 days later, I feel so anxious. And our response should be elated. It's like, you know what? You're on the right path. All these triggers are saying, no, 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 no. What are you doing? No, 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 no. When you feel you're more anxious, have an inner smile and say, and feel like, you know what? Thank you for trying to protect me, trigger. This protective, persistent, and global trigger. Thank you so much for reminding me that we used to believe that the world is not safe, but we're okay now. Thank you. So we're going back to this self-loving, self-confirming, right? And we honor how we feel, this kind of a loop. This is critical, in my opinion, okay? It's very easy to get people going, to get them to feel, hopeful, because, we operate from our heart, right? When we operate from our heart, we very naturally get a person to see if they operate from their heart where they can be. But when they start to go there, all these triggers will get fired. Guaranteed, right? All these emotions will be felt and they will actually feel, the body will start to produce chemicals that will increase the stress level. Okay. So reassure our patients that that's part of the healing process. That's part of the revealing process. You're absolutely heading the right direction. So to me, the ideal loop is this, okay? So we start basically the same thing, right? Go through the reptilian brain, which is so important to save us from emergency situations, right? Go through the limbic brain on our emotions, go into the midbrain, ask what's the most important thing we can do right now until we have clarity. Then we hand it over to the left and right brain to process it, right? And to make arrangements, to make plans for us to achieve it, right? It's like, okay, where are we going for vacation? Peru or Paris? Man, it's tough for the left and right brain. But if somehow the midbrain comes out with the clarity, say Paris, then left and right brain will be very, very happily, peacefully, without fear, to plan this vacation to Paris. Because otherwise it's like, is this okay? Is this right? Is Paris the right choice? And it will go back and forth, back and forth. But Peru has this and that, Anyway, this is the framework that I use. Yeah. Okay, then I have some approaches, right, which I kind of mentioned. Okay, so embrace all emotions, right? That to me is the way to make peace of our triggers that are always protective, persistent, and global. Midbrain activation, right? By asking the question, what's the most important thing I can do right now, right? Midbrain is in charge of our hope, joy, sense of safety, autoimmune system, auto functions, you name it, okay? And we resolve pending reptilian brain commands to resolve this inner conflict, okay? the way we resolve in the pending reptilian brain commands is actually to connect to loving kindness and to connect to the person that caused us to do this, to connect to his heart goal, essentially, or his or her heart goal, and then basically act out what we want to do. It could be slapping, it could be, but what is interesting is when a person connect to the event, the first thing is immobilization. The person is incapable of moving. Okay, it's like they can't even move their fingers or anything like that. They can't even they cannot utter a word. Okay, because that's actually a great connection back to so-called trauma, right? Then what we encourage the person to do is to move their little fingers, to move their toes, right? To get things going, right? Be able to move their wrists, okay? Turn their heads or whatever whatever movement they can generate. They start to generate this movement, and pretty soon they start to push, they start to hit, they start to yell, start to scream and curse, and afterwards, right? They connect through loving kindness to the heart of gold again. Okay. And to me, that's a true resolution of reptilian brain commands. And afterwards, a lot of people report, it's like, John, you know what? It's so quiet. I didn't know it was so noisy, but it's so quiet now. Right? It's so peaceful. Because that pending reptilian brain commands, which always push a person to do something, and the person has to suppress it all the time, right? That doesn't exist anymore. And I've used this on people who were raped, right? People who were assaulted, PTSD patients, veterans, anything, anything that were suppressed and not be able to express, we can use this. If we feel, but the key, in my opinion, is a loving kindness connection. Without a loving kindness connection, it's more like vengeance, which actually, in my opinion, actually hurt us even more. Yeah. Okay, yin tui na, right, scar treatment. So this allows the person, but in my opinion, we need to somehow get the midbrain activated before we do yin tui na, right? We need to somehow set a direction, a goal, right, where this person can be. And then we do yin tui na. To me, then, because otherwise we may hit triggers, and if they don't have a proper direction, in my opinion, it is actually dangerous. I think this probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was doing yin tui na on a PTSD veteran, and he came back and he said, John, you know what? I was so angry for the entire week. I basically broke my home. He was a 6'6", probably 250-pound guy. He said, I don't know what to do with myself, right? That's when I realized it's like, oh my goodness, having a good relaxed session can hit all the triggers because he is not allowed to relax. PTSD or veterans especially, right? By definition, they are in combat. They are in danger. They are hypervigilant for a reason. If somehow they can relax for an hour, that is not allowed. They cannot sleep well. So setting a good direction, to me, is so important. Honoring their emotions and stuff like that is so critical. Okay. So in my clinic, I actually have a whiteboard. Any new patient that comes in, right? We actually go over the framework. We go over everything that essentially what I talk about, right? To sort of have a roadmap. If they resonate with it, then we proceed. If they don't, it's all fine, right? Because this road is not an easy road. We have ways to make a person feel comfortable and relaxed, but that's not the end of it, right? The end goal is for that person to truly be empowered, be able to process their own internal, truth, essentially, right? And we got to give them all the tools, all the roadmaps, Okay. And connecting to one's parents, right? And love our parents unconditionally. This is, I honestly, I had a patient, 78, 75, 70 something, right? Came in with her husband, and eventually told me she was, actually raped by her own dad. And she's been suffering for, 60 years, basically. And when I told her, it's like, okay, you want to connect to your dad's heart goal and love your dad unconditionally. She was basically, she was about to hit me, basically. It's like, what are you saying? What do you want me to do? Right? And I can still remember her husband was like about to kneel down and say, honey, can you please give it a shot? Right? Because the husband has seen, her suffer, right? And have seen how her suffering make everybody around her suffer, right? That lady actually stormed out of my clinic. She was so angry. It's like, what kind of a BS, right? How can you ask me to do this? This is probably the 6th time I saw her, after 6th time. We were able to resolve her knee issues, back issue, a lot of the issues. And I say, you know what? Your biggest issue is not any of these symptoms. Okay. We can have temporary relief, but your biggest issue is your connection to your parent. 3 weeks later, she actually came back and she said, John, you know what? I'm going to try it. Okay. I'm going to do it. Put her on the table. She spent so much time trying so hard to connect to loving kindness. Connect to loving kindness is easy for her, but through loving kindness, connect to her dad's heart of gold took probably a good 10 minutes. And once she connected, I say, okay, I have a clock that has a second hand on my clinic wall. And the reason is I want to count 60 seconds. I say, okay, for the next 60 seconds, from your heart, through your throat, through your chest, through your throat, through your mouth, you're going to say, Dad, I love you unconditionally for 60 seconds. And you can imagine through all the struggle she did, but at the end of the 60 seconds, she was in complete peace. Her heart goal was revealed to her. She was able to love. To me, that's the real issue with trauma, is we somehow felt we were completely broken and we're unable to connect. We're unable to love anymore. But that is just not true. It's like channels, right? I mean, our channels can change in the flick of a second. So can our unconditional love heart be revealed instantaneously. Okay. Again, I don't ask every patient to connect to their parents on the first session, but at some point, to me, that is critical. All right, so these are my approaches. Okay, so the last part is our cultivation. Okay, so our own cultivation is critical. Okay, we have to center our Ren channel and our Du channel. And to me, it's really elevate our Ren channel, Ren 1 a little bit, which is our perineum. Okay, elevate our Ren 1 perineum a little bit. Okay, but ever so slightly. It's basically a mindfulness that we are in our body. People with trauma tend to disconnect or dissociate from that part of the body, right? And when we do that, we don't have a root. Okay. And have a tremendous sense of purpose in our heart. Like, I have a purpose. In my clinic, we actually do this, okay? It's like, I have a purpose, shout or scream or yell or curse. I have a purpose. We have to get that back, okay? That sense of anger, okay? Anger, in my opinion, is very new. It's a neutral energy, okay? It can plus judgment turn into angry or injustice or righteousness, which are very, very destructive, or it can be the base for thriving energy. It can be the base for our courage to change ourselves, right? So this, I have a purpose, in, even, shouting at the top of our lungs are so critical, right? And from our third eye or yin tang, right, we connect to loving kindness. So to me, that's my constant practice. In the clinic, that's what we do. I do have students, I do have volunteers, and I do have patients. When we're in the clinic, this is what we do. We do this throughout the clinic. We do not let this go. Okay. If anybody see the other person is kind of sympathizing or or feel sorry or feel bad or whatever, and they're not centering, we remind each other. We're very good at reminding each other. Journal or honor our feelings, loving kindness connection, which is part of the centering, right? Posture, right? Posture is so important. When we can, right, have the best posture that we can. When we drive, feel our two sit bones, for example. Self-care, daily self-care, whatever that means. If we just rub our hands, comb our hairs, wash our face, caring for ourselves, have a sense that we're caring for ourselves. Okay. We're so conditioned to help other people that at the end of the day, our bodies and our soul and our emotions are screaming. It's like, how about me? Okay. Spend some time, look in the mirror and say, I see you, I see you, I see you, and I love you. Yeah. Perspectives, gratitude, right? So when we're connected, when we're centered, and when we take care of ourselves, gratitude starts to shine. Okay? Gratitude is not something that we force ourselves to do, but it's just kind of, start to touch our hearts. Exercise our choices. Everything that we do is our choice. Okay. I shared this a few years ago, and a lady asked me, it's like, okay, John, if I change diapers, is it my choice? I said, not only is it your choice, you're doing it for yourself. Okay. And she's like, you gotta be kidding me, right? I changed the diaper and I'm doing it for myself. I said, yeah, can you please give it a try for 3 days or a week, right? She actually called me like in 2 days or something like that. She said, you know what? I don't hate my husband anymore. She didn't. It's like every time she changes the diaper, she actually has some resentment towards her husband. It's like, why is this my job? And you do it when you feel like it, right? And really, being in tune with our internal truth, and that is through our emotions and through how we feel. It's really how we feel. We have a purpose any moment, any time. Okay, no matter what the situation. Okay, in my opinion, right? PTSD has its purpose. Okay. In fact, without certain attributes, it's very difficult to have PTSD, right? So like dedication, commitment, right? The sense of right and wrong, right? And I encourage everybody to make a little vow to serve people just like us, to serve people just like ourselves. Okay, not the whole world, not everybody, but people just like us. This way we can truly honor our experience and share our firsthand experience, right? We're sharing our own truth. This is my experience. This is my journey, right? And we can say it in the most, in my opinion, this is like the most truthful way, and which may be the most convincing way, right? And finally is unconditional love. Just keep that in mind. Be a lighthouse, right? If we feel like, okay, I care and I love, and somehow I feel nobody cares, then we are really just a candle in the wind. We're not a lighthouse. So just having the sense that I am a lighthouse, we are very centered. Yeah. So that's the cultivation part of life, right? So as patients, as practitioners, we cultivate. You know, we mention this very, very often. Yeah. So I actually want to make this shirt, okay? An unwavering belief of our, you know, infinite thriving energy is we have a purpose. um, and to me, we all have our own truth. Okay, the person that we don't agree with, they have their own truth too, right? So to me, peace is really embracing truth from all sides, essentially. And if we all do that, right? If we all do what's most empowering at the moment, we have all the rights and all the, you know, obligation even to modify our own truth when it's appropriate, when it's empowering. Then we'll always operate from a sense of truth. And to me, love hurts when it's conditional. So it's easy to feel when we're righteous, and our spleen channel gets stuck, and our heart becomes cold, right? We become righteous. When we're right, be kind. Be kind. All right, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. John, you used one thing, the example of the guy you did Tuina on him, and then he was angry for a week. In my work, one of the hardest things to emphasize enough, I say this in my books on recovering from Parkinson's, if you've got a foot injury, but you're also self-induced, you've commanded yourself to be numb, you have to get rid of those commands before you work on the injuries. Over and over, I have seen people go crazy, like completely crazy. They go ahead and they get healing in these injuries with this tender, sweet emotion, but they've never dealt with the instruction to be numb to begin with. And they go nuts.
Yeah.
Like their spouses will say, I don't know what to do. He's crazy. He's not listening to me. He's drifting in and off. They actually develop mental disorders if they do the Yin Tui Na before they have turned off the self-instruction to be numb. Yeah. What you just went past it. Go to the previous one. Here, this one, the Yin Tui Na scar treatment, they cannot do that if they are still dealing with the inner conflict at a deeper subconscious level. And I've written about this so many times, and most people reading my book say, oh no, that won't be a problem for me.
It's a huge problem. Yes.
It's a huge problem. And then after that, their brain is gone. They're like in outer space, and their spouse says, I try to talk to him now, and his eyes dart back and forth, and then he literally can't even hear what I'm saying because they did the supportive, loving work before they turned off the inner conflict. So I was so happy to hear you say that. I just wish I could think of some way to get through in my writing. No, I mean it. Really, don't do this. So many people, they say, oh, it's going to take a long time to turn off the conflict. I'll just go ahead and start with the Tui Na thing for my foot injury because I know about that.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah. So probably like 3-4 months ago, I had a Parkinson patient. We actually started work from emotions. I got her to write, to really get into her triggers before we turn off pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was actually a fairly smooth transition for her. So we do a lot of like whiteboard talks and get her to review, get her to present prior to turning off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she also was sexually abused. So there were pending reptilian brain commands as well.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. I mean, honestly, this chart, is heavily based on your work, and I cannot be more grateful.
Well, it's my work, but it's sometimes hard to get it across to the patient. I'm sure you've seen this, patients who want to say, no, I don't need to deal with that. My problem is this. And you're thinking, oh, no, no,
Yeah, yeah,
this is your problem. No,
yeah.
no. And they,
Yeah, that's why I set up a sort of like a framework. It's almost
uh-huh.
like a little system, right? That they have to go through the entire system. I will not treat unless you understand the in and out, back and forth, the entire system. I will not treat. I refuse to treat you. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
And I refuse because I love my patients. Every patient that comes in my door, to me is it's an opportunity, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to mess up that opportunity.
Yes. But if they aren't willing to go the slow, safe route and make sure we clear all these steps, if they can't do that, then I have to say, I can make you worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I don't treat. I just say, we're not ready. I
Yeah.
don't know how to treat you unless you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a golfer, female golfer, and she's like, her back was all messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she want me to treat her back, right? And I say, show me how you swing. She's a professional golfer, and she showed me how the swing, right? I say, you treat your upper back, you treat your entire back like a rubber band, right? Until you change your golf swing, I'm not gonna touch your back. I
Yeah.
care more about your your well-being than your performance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Boy, so many golfers, musicians, it's all the same. So easy for them to abuse their body. And then they come in to say, my wrist is just hurting all the time. And then you say, well, actually, it's not coming from your wrist. This is coming from your sacrum.
yeah.
And what I often hear from musicians is, oh, yeah, right. Because when they first started studying music, their teachers would always say, you've got to get into your low back. The energy is going to come all the way up. It has to be like a fountain and then the fountain comes all the way out into your fingertips, and that's where you do your musicianship. But it's starting and so many of them have said to me, oh yeah, my teacher told me that 40 years ago. Something like this. And I go, well, that's where we're going today. Back to square one. I'm not going to look at your hand. I don't care about your wrist. We're going to say, how are you relating to your low back? Because that's where it's with really a delicate execution for the fingers. So violin, piano, it doesn't matter what. They have to have a low back. They have to have a sacrum. They have to have a place where the power can start and express through the whole body. The more they get into the fingers, they lose the musicianship.
Yeah.
But I just love how so many of them say, oh yeah, right, I forgot. Oh, yeah. So we're so lucky to be able to do this kind of work.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Oh. I had a really cool experience last week. A patient who has all kinds of problems, including asthma, and he's fairly autistic, but very aware of it. And great guy, really love him. And he came in and he said, well, I'm going to make a confession. I think one of the things that's still causing my problems and keeping me stuck on pause, he was so hard. He could hardly get the words out. He said, it's so stupid, so stupid. I'm so ashamed. He went through this for about 10 minutes. I kept saying, there's no such thing as stupid. He was a voice student, and his teacher wanted him to get more skills with his tongue. So he was having him practice singing by putting a quarter on his tongue and keeping it there. And he swallowed it.
Oh.
Had to go into hospital. And by the way, general anesthesia does not put a person to sleep. It puts them on pause. So many patients I've had who are stuck on pause, all I had to do was bring them out of anesthesia. They were stuck. I said, when did this health problem begin? X. Okay, what else was happening around the same time as X? Oh, nothing. No, what else were you doing in the 6 months before? Well, I had my wisdom teeth out, or I had some minor surgery, something like this. And that's when all their health problems started because they never came out of the anesthesia. So
Mm.
anyway, he had been anesthetized because they were going to have to go into his throat and pull out the quarter. He did become completely knocked out, but they started too soon because he could hear them when the doctor said, "Oh, good, I got it." And he could still hear that. And then he went out cold. So I said, okay, we're just going to turn off pause really fast. And we went through an exercise that I show in my book, Stuck on Pause, where you're talking with the coach and you're talking to your friend. Does your friend say you're going to die? No. Do you think you're going to die? Yes. Your friend says no. You say yes. And we just go back and forth. And finally said, okay, I'm not going to die. And he immediately took, without me prompting, he took a big breath and he rocked his head from side to side, which is the first 2 out of 3 steps. And then he started coughing to the extent that water, big wads of water was coming up out of his throat, just, and he had never done that. He had never finished clearing out the quarter.
Yeah.
He was amazed because he goes, "Oh my God, I'm getting rid of the quarter." This was 20 years ago. And he's there coughing and coughing. I give him a glass of water. He slows his water. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. He had never been able to. So then I made him just shake the spine. It was over. He was fine. I couldn't let him leave the office. He was so high. It was like he was on meth or something. I said, "Okay, I need you to walk back and forth across the office. Make sure you're okay." After one loop, he said, "I'm not okay. I'm exploding with joy. It's pouring out all over my head."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, you can't get in the car."
Yeah.
So we just walked it through, and I made him bring all that joy down to yin tong and then down to his mouth.
Yeah.
Because basically, when what you're calling the midbrain, I call the striatum, which is autonomic center. And all that energy was getting stuck there because it hadn't moved past the striatum in years. And it was just exploding out the top. He could even feel it. It's exploding out the top of my head. So we had to focus to get him to bring it all the way to the front and then down. And then immediately he calmed down, but he was completely recovered from his other syndromes. So, but the funny thing is, I'd worked with him, I don't know how many times, and he hadn't, and I would ask, "Is there something else? Is there something else in your history?"
Oh, they always say no.
And they always say no. Of course they say no. So very often what I'll do is I'll say, did something happen to you when you were 5 or younger? And they'll go, no. And they'll say, how about 10? And they'll say, do you mean 8?
Yeah.
Or sometimes they go all the way up to 21, but what's weird is they know it's there on some level, but they're saying, no, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. You were 5? No, no, no. You were 7? No, no, no. You were 10? No, I was 8 when it happened. What happened? Oh, I don't want to tell you. But at least that's my fastest way to get to it. If they have no idea what is the problem, I just start saying the years.
Yeah.
And at some point
they will correct you.
Yeah, they will explode. And then they'll say, no, it was 17, but I don't want to talk about it. I go, that's fine. Tell me more about when you were 17. But at least we've opened a door. I said, okay, during this next week, I want you to write down all the reasons why you don't want to talk about it. And then I want you to write down all the reasons why you don't want to get better. And then they start having to laugh because they see the connection. But the brain is so tricky. But you've got to clear up that stuff before you do the yin tui na. The hate. Yeah, hating the parents. It's so easy to know why a lot of people have hate for the parent. But if you're hating your parents, you're also hating God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. So impressive. Thank you so much for this talk, John. It's like hearing a lot of ideas I have coming through you, coming through another person, a different perspective. It's just fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all have desires to love our parents unconditionally. but at the same time, we were disappointed. So we have triggers to protect ourselves to.
It's more than disappointed. No.
Right.
We are scared to death.
Right. So to me, they're conflicting. I mean, it's a conflict within us, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it's when we feel we have a choice, to me, that's when we start to be truly independent, essentially.
Yeah.
So Raymond, thanks. I see you. Any comments? Anything that resonate?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to offer some big gratitude to Dr. JJ and yourself, John, for putting this together and sharing your wisdom, accumulated wisdom, and yes, there's one thing that is really how can I put this? I guess I could say it's tearing me apart, is that in my massage therapy classes, it was repeated time and time again by the teachers: you are not psychologists. You will not talk about things and stories and mothers and fathers and family. You are going to touch people, their skin, their muscles, and yes, emotions coming up. But your area of expertise is not psychology. You have to stick to anatomy. So, and I kind of have a guiding principle since then. So that's like 15 years ago. And when I hear you folks talk, there's lots more than touching the person. You are even saying, before you touch the person, you have to do this. And that part of it, I'm very uncomfortable because I haven't done that. So maybe you can, secure me or help me out, because that area of the psyche and all that and the emotions, I don't ask questions. I don't bring in there the tourist guide that I am. I'm just bringing someone through the tourist sites like everybody else, but no more. I'm kind of uncomfortable with doing more than yin tuina. So maybe you can help me out there.
This is a really brilliant point. Really brilliant, because what your teachers were telling you is how to not lose your license. They're saying your license gives you authority over this area. Because John and I are both doctors. Actually, in California, a licensed acupuncturist's training is such that we are considered primary care providers, licensed to diagnose, prescribe, and treat. So it's a much bigger program. I spent 4.5 years getting my master's in this, and we have to cover psychology and counseling and a lot of other subjects. So I think what the concern is for you, and it's absolutely valid, it's a licensing issue. And there's a lot of people who probably shouldn't ever do any counseling. And I have a funny story to close this. And there's a lot of people who don't have the licensing, but they would be brilliant counselors. And my funny story to end this subject, because you're going to need to figure out where you can go with this legally, is in France. Now, you know the French. You need to get a stamp for everything. You need to get approval. They love the red tape. I'm just saying, you know the French, okay? The French decided that anybody can do counseling. You don't even need to take a class. Anybody can do, because what their conclusion was, anybody who's talking to anybody else is doing counseling. We're all doing counseling. So how can we say you can do counseling, but you can't because you took a class? That's ridiculous. So there's no longer the risk of being sued for practicing medicine without a license in counseling in France. But it just only makes me laugh because more than any country I've ever been to, maybe except China, the French, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
well, if we say that there's horse therapy and dog therapy and sheep therapy, well, those sentient beings don't have a certification or diploma. So are they counselors? And
well, if you're asking the French, no. If you're asking Quebec, then Montreal authorities, then they think so. So it's actually a legal issue, what you're talking about. I think you're extremely qualified to help people look at their thoughts, go deep, all the things that you need to do. One thing you can do is have people read materials. So when I wrote the book, Medications of Parkinson's, Once Upon a Pill, I said, I cannot talk to you legally in this realm. Pharmaceuticals is one place I have to study it, take classes, but I can't counsel in it. I can't give what's called prescriptive advice. I can talk about it, but I can't tell you what to do. So I wrote this entire book because your doctor has no idea, because I can't talk to you. So here's what you need to know. And here's all these possibilities. And it's 700 pages. But it was a legal protect myself action. But what you could do is you could have a patient read the book Stuck on Pause before you're working with them. So if you've got a vet and they're stuck on pause, they aren't stuck in sympathetic mode usually. It's way deeper than that. They're stuck in this life or death thing. It's not just they need a little more adrenaline. Their whole brain is in an altered state. You can have them read this book. In fact, I keep pointing out in the book, this is a do-it-yourself thing. Because in the end, you're going to have that conversation. Can I forgive my mother? No one can have it for you. No one can argue with you why you need to forgive your mother. You need to forgive your mother. It's about, so you can give them material to read and then welcome them into your practice. Say, I can do massage after you've turned this off.
So with men and women that served, then it could be harmful, if I hear you correctly, to be strict about my competency of body work directly first thing. So I could do harm, and that is not my motto. Like everyone here, it's do no harm. So this means that if a veteran comes to see me, then I could do harm because I wouldn't go through this roadmap, this framework. So that part is a little disconcerting.
That's wonderful. It should be. But what you can do is you could have a first session with the person, and a lot of times, if I'm not sure, I'll just do craniosacral work, working with the head and neck, because everybody's got a neck problem. Mostly they come in, but during the course, you talk with them a little bit. And yes, you're not doing counseling, but you get to ask questions. And what you can do is at the end, you can say, before we come back, because I think I have some ideas what's going on here. I want you to read this book. See if you can get through it. And if you can then come back with questions about that, you're going to have to walk very carefully or get a higher level of licensing to be safe, legally safe. I think for the patient, I think you're absolutely qualified to go with them and work through the limbic brain stuff where they're stuck in the reptilian, all that subconscious. I think you'd be great. But legally, I had one doctor in town, the neurologist, the patient was working with me. She told the neurologist, I'm getting better, so I'm going to focus on working with JJ. And this doctor actually contacted me and said she was going to take me to court for practicing medicine without a license. And so I wrote back and said, that's nice, but actually I'm licensed. And by the way, 3 of the drugs you prescribed for this patient, one is the named drug. The other is the generic of the same thing. So basically you're double dosing. And see, I wasn't giving the patient prescriptive advice. And the third one is never supposed to be used with this one. So I just thought I'd mention that. That was after she wanted to sue me. Yeah. So, it's really tricky. And when you're doing fringe medicine, which is often the most effective, there's always somebody going to be angry at you.
Well, this is my take. Okay. So in the Chinese medicine school that I went through, I was advised, warned, forced not to practice what I practice right now in school, period. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't needle in many of my classes because I refuse to needle those points because I feel that's not even close to being the proper treatment, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually went through school with a lot of anger for the first few semesters. I was really angry. I was like, how can this be? We're practicing a medicine, but we're not supposed to touch the core of the issue, right? And there are regulations, there are concessions, there are rules, there are laws and whatever, right? To protect essentially to segregate the medicine into pieces and bits, right? Which has absolutely no benefit for anybody, right? So to me, I made the decision to say, essentially I look myself in the eyes and say, what do I want to do? What's my gift, right? And I honor my gift. If one day I go to jail, honestly, I'll be happily go to jail. I'll be serving in jail.
Oh, yeah.
I will. Honestly, I will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's a purpose to take me into different places, I'll go wherever that place is, right? But I will not, honestly, I will not abandon my gifts because I want to be true. Honestly, I want to serve, mm-hmm. Right?
And you get great results, but you're walking a lot. We all are. All of us who aren't practicing Western medicine and following the standard of care, even MDs run this risk.
Yeah.
If they do the standard of care, which research has shown that it takes 20 years for the standard of care to even adopt new ideas, new research, new drugs, new things that are way better than the old way. It takes decades because the whole industry of medicine is so afraid of being sued. They go so slowly. And sometimes for the sake of our patients and our own heart, we have to just say, the hell with that.
So I honor even the people who say I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because I can feel deep down, if they have the condition or if their loved ones have the condition, wouldn't they want something like this, right? So to me, be a lighthouse. Honestly, Raymond, be your lighthouse. You are a lighthouse, in my opinion. Be the lighthouse, right? And practice what's true within your heart.
Now, the tricky thing, though, is he's trying to put together a study. So you're going to have to keep written records of what it is you're doing. So you're going to be very exposed.
Well, ultimately, I think ultimately
Sorry, I interrupted.
This may be a journey, to somewhere, right? You may do a study and you may find all these constraints, and you may, through these findings, get a deeper understanding or get a deeper feel of your internal truth, right? And all I'm hopeful is for you to shine, right? Because it's so important. We need lighthouses everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Because honestly, a lot of the conditions, when I talk to a person who was extremely traumatized, and I bring up this model, right, and bring up the things that JJ mentioned about, right, pause mode, right, dissociation and stuff like that, they resonate. I had a college student, okay, she's 19, go to a psychology go to psychology. She's a psychology major in Hawaii University. Her dad, through a friend, get her to see me. She was diagnosed with psychotic. She was under psychotic drugs because she fell from a mountain bike. And after the fall, she took, she smoked marijuana, right? And she went into psychosis. Okay. When she came to see me, I say, you just fell, right? And you smoke marijuana and you relax, and all your systems are raising the alarm through the roof. Okay. And I say, if this resonates with you, we can work together. She said, you know what? That's exactly how I feel. I was so fearful. My body was so tense and everything else. And all of a sudden I was relaxed. And then the next thing I know, I have no control of myself, right? Yeah. Within a week, she was absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with her. I said, everything that you experience is exactly what it's supposed to be. Okay. After a fall, 5 o'clock in Hawaii, all by herself, mountain biking, she dragged herself to safety and took a bus home. Okay. And after she went back to the dorm, the dorm mates had basically said, oh, you need to relax. Here's the weed. She rarely do that. Right. And she felt relaxed, and all of a sudden, the whole thing blew up. Right.
That's just exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly, right?
Deal with the trauma, address the trauma, and then you will automatically relax.
Yes. So, and then, you know what? We were, after our session, and I told her, like, you're going to go through these up and down because you're going to be triggered again, right? We were walking down the street right in front of the house, right? And she looked at me and she said, you know what? I feel this tremendous sense of purpose. I'm going to see people just like me firsthand. Okay. For decades, I know what to do. I will not send them to the psychotic, the psych ward. She was sent to the psych ward. So these, honestly, I mean, when I say we are, the people who have the courage to use our heart, to follow, where our hearts lead us. It takes courage, Raymond. Okay. I know there are rules, there are regulations, and there are all kinds of blocks, right? This is from day one, from going to elementary school. There are right and wrongs. Okay. If you're kind, you're weird. Okay. If you know what to do on a moment by moment basis, if you're wise, you are weird because you're not following rules. So to me, this is what's needed, and I do feel, I really made a vow to serve seekers. If we have a chance to talk, you are seekers. We're all seekers here, right? Follow your heart. Do what's true to you, and you'll be fine. Yeah. You'll be glorious, actually.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, John, and all those who I didn't get to meet personally. Thank you so much. This is such a huge topic, and in medicine today, it is not handled correctly. That's a black and white statement.
We don't understand we don't understand ourselves, essentially. The medicine has come to a state where we don't understand. We just don't understand, Tribal people understand, if we suffer a fall or animal attack, the tribal people know what to do.
Yes, right. Exactly. Because that night around the fire, we're going to talk about it. They're going to do a dance. There's going to be singing. There's going to be all this support, and you're going to freak out and you're going to shake it out.
That's right. We're going to do this for weeks if necessary.
Well, yeah, until we work that out. And your spirit guides are going to help you. The ancestors are going to help you. So many cultures have ways to deal with trauma because trauma.
We're gonna be reconnected.
Yeah.
Right. Trauma essentially is we lose connection. Right. We're gonna be reconnected. They know how to do it. We don't.
Yeah. What they've got is in the Heart Math Institute has done so much research on this. When the heart waves and the brain waves aren't coherent, when they're not resonant, then you can't fix. The body can't be fixed. You're stuck in a weird place. And trauma, even severe illness, can do that. It sort of makes this disconnect with the heart and brain waves. You've got to be able to get them back in sync. And then, oh, all of a sudden it's obvious what they need. Now we're going to work on these channels.
Yeah.
Some Tuina, heal the physical. We're going to heal the physical. But the first thing, we've got to ease your tortured brain.
But Raymond, to me, your presence will bring heart and brain waves together just by your presence. Your presence in front of a person will basically sync up their brain and heart waves, for them to feel safe and everything else, right? So everything that we talk about is after they see you. They're going back to reality, and all of a sudden, all these things will start to hit them, which will make them, like Dr. JJ said, right? You fix something, and then the person goes crazy, right? So all we're doing, to me, is like when we see the entire process, right? Everything we learn is to focus on that little window of an hour or 90 minutes to say this within this 90 minutes, that's what we do, right? But when we care about the person, we start to open that window up, right? That's when we introduce all this stuff. Yeah.
So to go back to the one of your first charts, the number 4 was compassion. I kind of see this as everyone who is suffering is off grid, and everybody kind of values being off grid, being independent of the network. But to me, the true healing is to be connected, not being off grid.
Right. Yeah.
So if I connect to the network, to the universe, to nature, whatever, then I will breathe differently. I will talk differently. I will touch differently. I will
Absolutely.
look at you differently.
Yes.
And all that is healing.
Yes.
If I'm off grid, then you don't stand a chance.
That's right. If you're so concerned about regulation when you see a patient, you're off grid. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
So when you see your patient, you connect properly, and things will flow. Okay. You will do what's most empowering at the time, and you'll be, you will probably don't even know what you're talking about, and that would be perfect.
Yeah. I just want to share with all of you right now, I feel so fortunate to know people like this, that we could even have this kind of conversation from all around the world.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, much.
Yeah. When I was in school, as you can imagine, I was in a rebellion the whole time against this system because so much felt wrong. So at one point I was talking to myself in herb class, and I said, well, what is it you want to do with your life? And I said, I just want to talk about God and love. And my guru laughed. I could hear him laughing, and he said, finish your classes.
Yeah, that's right. You need to go somewhere first.
Yeah, finish your classes. I didn't know why he made me go to acupuncture school. I had a life. I had businesses. I was doing fine. Go to acupuncture school.
Beautiful.
It's so beautiful to meet with people like this. We're so lucky. Here's some news. I've almost finished. I'm just waiting for permission from some publishers to make quotations, but the book is finished, and it's called Biophysics of Kriya Yoga. And even if you don't do Kriya Yoga, there's a lot. I think everyone in this group would appreciate a lot of the stuff in there. It says, what happens with your mind and your body if you are doing these kind of spiritual techniques or not? And it talks about so many things we've discussed today, because it's people who are trying to do Kriya Yoga so they can connect with the divine. And a lot of the book is saying, let's put on the brakes here. Let's fix the problem that makes you already think you aren't connected.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you thinking you're not connected? But it's really fun because it's not medical. It's not about Parkinson's, where I'm going to have 100 people writing me saying, "Dear Madam, are you aware?" Like those people. This one, I'm just saying, this is me. This is my take. If you don't like it, pray to your gurus, talk to God. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. So it's been wonderful to do that. So I'm going to be sending you, once I hear back, the publishers have sent me an email. We're sorry, it is taking us longer to do permissions than usual. So I don't know when it'll be done. The printer's waiting. I've paid the deposit. That book will come. But it's the most fun book I ever had. Because I can just tell my truth. And I'm not writing it as a doctor about a specific problem. I'm writing it to people who are trying to make a spiritual effort and don't know why they're not making progress.
Bravo, bravo.
Merci. Oh, je préfère le français. It's just easier in the mouth. I write in English, but I sure love to speak in the French. John, don't you enjoy speaking in the Mandarin?
I just enjoy connecting. Whatever connects right, it's good.
Yeah, my nighttime reading is always in French because there's nobody in Santa Cruz, hardly, except the French teacher at the high school. But it's such a soft language, John. The French, it's easier on the mouth, I think. What do you think, Raymond?
Well, I used to be more fluent in English when I worked at IBM. Every day I would talk in French and English. Now I'm kind of my English is kind of rough. I'm looking for my words. I'm not as fluent as I used to be. So that's how I account for the roughness of my English speaking. But yeah, French is my mother tongue, so yeah, it flows. But let me tell you a fun fact, okay? When I was a kid, I would stutter. Okay? At the age of 8, my parents bought a house in a different part of town, which 99% people spoke English. So I made a few friends, English-speaking friends. So I learned English in like 6 months. And I stuttered in French and not in English. Wow. Explain that. Same brain.
Same brain.
Explain that.
Wow. Mais maintenant, do you stutter in the French?
Well, as I went to school and university and work, I think I built up some self-confidence and I would stutter less. But today, sometimes in very nerve-wracking or stressful situations, for example, when I go up to a mic in a conference, I could stutter. Yeah.
That is just fascinating. My God.
But when I'm relaxed, there's no stuttering. In French, yes. In English, never.
You might have a trigger.
Yeah.
Associate with it.
Yeah, it must be the fact that all the eyes are looking towards me when I speak to the mic, or like now on Zoom. Sometimes when I have Zoom and I'm called to speak, I know I'll have a hard time saying my full thoughts, but choosing the right words. I know that, so it's going to come out partial. It's going to come out biased. So that in itself is a stress that I won't be communicating the full nuance of my thought.
Okay, so here's a great brain story. My son doesn't have it now. We were able to figure it out, but if you covered his right eye, he had a severe stammer, and he couldn't read or write, and he could draw beautiful charcoal portraits when he was a young child, like before he started school. If you covered his left eye, he had a voice like a robot. He could do math, he could do reading and writing, and he couldn't use his right hand to draw.
Wow.
Fixed it. It was damaged. He had damage right here. So my acupuncture professor treated him for a year, and he also had a reading therapist work with him for a year, making him trampoline and do all kinds of left, right, balance things. Every day we did therapy at home for a year, and it finally clicked. And one of the main places on his body that they treated was right here, because he said energy, the middle of your brain, that corpus callosum, isn't working because your right and left sides aren't communicating. Your visual capacity is supposed to go to both sides of your brain from either eye, so that if you lose an eye, you still have full access to your brain. But in his right eye only went to the right side, and the left eye went to the left side. So they were working on this midline, and they kept treating this point right here. So finally, it like switched. One day, in less than 24 hours, his brain was exploding. There was light in his head. It was crazy. And when the room stopped spinning, he had integration. The next morning, he walks into my bedroom. He's 8 years old now. And I look at him, and I said, I wondered when that injury was ever going to heal. Now, I had completely forgotten this injury that he had when he was a year old and just kind of learning to run and walk. And he'd had a really bad fall, and it tore the tissue from the gum to the lip, was completely ripped out, bled a lot. It was terrible. And what I saw subconsciously, that he always carried his upper lip like this. And he came into my bedroom, and his upper lip was relaxed. Consciously, I had never known it was there. I had never seen it, didn't know anything. And all of a sudden, I saw him in his original face. And I said, oh, you've relaxed from that lip injury. And this is where the acupuncturists have been putting the magnets for a year to get the midbrain to heal and grow. And then he never had a stammer since. So he could do, it was not just could he draw. You could play him like a symphony on the stereo. He was a little kid, and he'd go over and pick it out on the piano. Because he only used his right eye. He never used his left eye, and that's where the words and the numbers were. And he was only using his right eye, and he was a magnificent musician and artist. But the cool thing, after it all integrated, he kept both sets of capabilities. So he's a brilliant at science person now, and he's a professional musician. But so weird, the stammer thing.
So again, it's all about connection or interconnection. So there's nothing broken. There's just more or less connection.
Right. Through the brain, the left and right, neither one knew it was there. So he had no sense of history, no sense. It turns out the one reason he couldn't recognize letters, you draw a letter C, and this is your name. This is the letter C. So then you draw another one, say, what's this? He goes, I don't know. Because to him, it was all art. There was literally no logic sequence connecting one letter C to the next, because they were unique, because they were art.
Well, it is all symbolic. I mean, numbers, letters,
But he didn't
musical
have
notes.
that.
It's all symbolic. It's all encrypted. It's all meaningless unless you know the cipher.
Yes, but he was using his right side, which said everything is art. There is no logic. It was hard those first 8 years, thinking, I've got a kid who's never going to be able to read or write or think analytically. But now he's brilliant. He's my favorite teacher. So this has been such a treat. I'm just so grateful to have thoughtful people in my life.
Same here. Thank you all so much.
Oh, I just want to say, since I'm seeing you Raymond, face to face, because I just want you to know I'm sending love for your mother. And I think of her and I think of you. And I know I wrote you an email, but seeing you face to face, I just want to say how much I love that you love and still love your mother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I still think of my father every single day. He's been gone since 2004. It's been 20 years. This spring, 20 years. He is with me every day. So it's good. He never left.
That's what John wrote to me a week ago or so. Mm-hmm. That the unconditional love is even more pragmatic now that she's gone than when we were both in flesh and blood, which had lots of conditions and hurts and memories and constraints. Mm-hmm. That was very hard for unconditional love, and now it's more. It's weird to say, but it's more pragmatic to connect in the spiritual level than it was in the flesh and bone level.
Yeah.
It's weird, but that's the way I kind of see it now. So yes, John, you helped me to embrace the unconditional connection. For me, it's going to be in a week. It'll be a year that she's gone. But yes, every day I think of her. I have a picture here on my altar. I see her all the time. But yes, that's just a piece of paper or a picture or a frame. But yes, it's easier to have unconditional love, I find, and to connect to the loving kindness, to the heart of gold. It's kind of easier for me now that she's gone. It's weird to say, but that's the way I feel it.
Yeah. I serve with with such connections, to my parents, to my kids, to my family, to basically anyone I know, right? If we can imagine, like, out of the billions and billions of beings in this world, and we somehow get together, somehow know each other's name and hear each other's voice, that to me is profound. Yeah. So, Branka, Irene, any comments? Or I know thank you for staying the whole session.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much, John. I think I met you a number of years ago when Philip, my ex-husband,
yes,
went to see you in California. And since then, I've been sort of really not following you all the time, but I definitely keep an eye. And I know about the work of Dr. Janice Walton. And I have to confess, I haven't read, I've kind of glanced through it, but it's my dream to sit down and to learn more about it. My training, actually, just a little bit about myself. My training is psychology and psychotherapy. And I worked more and more towards working or facilitating sort of a change through the body. So a lot of the acupuncture terminology is a little bit sort of I'm not sure what it is, but I have a deeper sense of it because I think it's a wonderful way of facilitating change and healing, and it encompasses more than the body. So at the moment, actually, I'm in Colombia. My good thing is I live in UK, but I'm now in Colombia visiting my mom, who's 96 years old. So I'm in a very demanding household, in a very hot, it's like hot and humid here. demanding circumstances, but I think being here has been very reaffirming of what it is to be healed and what it is that we need to heal, to be healed ourselves, and to how we nurture ourselves so that we can give, so that we can share that with others. So this has been very reaffirming and very inspirational. Although I haven't known all the all the terms of or the terminology, but the unconditional love, I think, is what I take profoundly with everybody in this group. It's an honor. Thank you, John. Thank you, Janice, and thank you, everyone, and Raymond. And we are spread throughout the world, but we're all one. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, is Spanish your first language?
Yes, it is. It is.
Spanish. If you would like, there is now an edition of Recovery from Parkinson's, which covers all of these principles in Spanish.
In Spanish. Fantastic.
Yeah,
and also, it's lovely to know that, because it's interesting through my friend's condition, and I avoid to say illness because I think everything is a condition that can be modified. I've learned so much. It's been like a way onto looking at the mind, body, spirit, energy through different lenses. So it's been tough because it's like a dear brother to me, but it's also been very enlightening in many other ways. And through that, I've met a lot of people who've Spanish speakers, and they're helping people to deal with the condition. And I think it's wonderful to know what is out there that can actually help people to heal a little bit and to be more at ease. And so thank you very much.
And the Spanish edition is available for free.
Oh my goodness, what a gift. Thank you.
Free download. It's the website of the website of the Parkinson's Recovery Project. Just go there and click on publications. And we're so happy. And we've been told, my Spanish is very poor, but we've been told that the edition, it's really good. It was a doctor and an acupuncturist and a professional translator. All three work together. And I don't know.
What I'm going to do is like when I'm a little bit more less constrained with the circumstances here, I will start sharing it more with people and platforms, because I think we need to help each other.
Gracias.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
We have someone new. Hello.
Hey, June.
Hey, John. Sorry, I actually cannot see myself in the room, so I didn't know I was visible to you guys. Nice to meet you, JJ. I heard from John about you a lot. He used to give talk on Clubhouse, and he used to put the channel, Dragon of Channel, I forgot. I read first a few chapters. I didn't finish the reading yet. Yeah, but really nice to meet you, JJ. Thanks for having me.
And you.
I don't know whether you guys have a little bit time, so because I joined late, I had another meeting before this call. I just have a small question, curious question, mostly for JJ. So when you were talking about the young boy, I didn't get the full story when you talked about his artistic nature, but that triggered me to think like my daughter, my younger daughter, she has very dry lips, and John actually told me to just put her, when she sleeps, she can get a tape. So because of pain when she sleeps, she opened her mouth, so she has some snoring issue, and so that actually affected her jaw shape. So she has those kind of PNG issue also, although her jaw is locked. But my question is more like when she has this kind of jaw lips issue, dry lips issue, sometimes they're healing. Like even last night, I was looking at her lips. I said, it looks better to me today, right? So they look better to me today because it's under the shade. But I kind of feel even a comment like that can make her feel my lips have problems. So she's very subconscious about her looking, right? So sometimes when I make that comment, and also like her body shape, she used to have a very nice body shape, long legs, whatever. And I remember one comment I made maybe 2 nights ago was, okay, where are your long legs? They become bulky, chunky now, right? So I'm just curious about something, even like conversation like that, I think it's normal, but when I reflect, that may indicate to them, that may send a message to them. Do I have a my left
Yeah. First, let me say, I'm having a problem with the sound. So I've been trying to read your lips. I can hear it, but it's kind of garbled. So I'm not, I understand she's got dry lips and the jaw shape, and I don't know how old she is and when did it start with the dry lips and what was happening in her life at that time.
Sorry, I'm readjusting my
Much better.
Do you hear me better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wow. I didn't know that. So
How old is your daughter now?
she is 17,
Okay.
getting to 18 right now. Yeah.
When did she start to have the dry lips?
About 6 months ago, I think.
Oh, so new. Okay. Did she
Yeah.
have braces on her teeth?
She used to have the braces. They removed it at least 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Did her jaw change when she had the braces? Or was her jaw always shaped?
No, I remember she used to bite her thumb under her upper teeth. So I don't know whether she has kind of more overbite. I thought that was because she used to bite her thumb.
No, it's because her jaw is not seated correctly. When she was born, did she have forceps delivery?
What is forceps delivery?
It's when old-fashioned, where
no, she a C-section.
C-section. Okay, so did she, when she was very little, did she have an accident where she landed on her jaw like this?
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, could be. Yeah, they fall all the time.
Yeah, they do. So, bye-bye, Franca. What I would do is I would do craniosacral work because I think her jaw is not seated correctly.
Uh-huh.
She doesn't really have an overbite. Her jaw is seating too far back. It might even be out of the sockets.
Okay.
So I would work on that. And for
Okay.
dry lips, that could be all kinds of things. It could be a foot injury affecting the stomach channel. It's the spleen channel that's supposed to keep the moisture on the lips. So all kinds of things could influence that.
Okay. Yeah, she has tried different, she used to have put the chapsticks, but didn't work. So she put the, I forgot what's the oil, and the doctor suggested it didn't help. So I actually told her to try nothing, just see what's going on. Yeah.
Does she have a history of foot or leg injury?
Not seriously. So her, she not an injury, but she did hurt her ankle bad, but no surgery. Yeah.
Did she have mononucleosis illness in the last few years?
What is that?
In English, it's a glandular fever. It's a bad cough, and it's like a sore throat with a bad cough, but instead of going away in a few days, it can last for weeks or a month.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Are you an acupuncturist?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So write this down.
Uh-huh.
You want somebody to check her channels on her legs. And if it's not moving at spleen 9 and or large intestine 11. And does she get cold easily now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to put needles at spleen 9 and large intestine 11 for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then get a steaming hot moxa burner and put
Okay.
it on her back at
Okay.
UB23 and do this every week until she can feel the heat.
Okay. On her back, middle back?
Yeah, a moxa burner with a piece of thin cloth to protect the
Okay.
skin, and
Yeah.
then just run the moxa burner over her back. Really, you should have an acupuncturist do this because they will do it safely, and have her eat oatmeal, a lot of oatmeal,
Okay.
like maybe 3 times a day. It can be a
Okay.
small amount, but
Okay.
it can have honey in it, anything she wants, but several, or if someone is currently having mono, I will have them eat oatmeal 10 times a day and nothing else. But now she's sort of gotten over it, but not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Her channels are still running in the classic patterns of mono, and that's why she's having the dry lips. So you go ahead and treat that and get a craniosacral person or yin tui na therapist to reset her jaw.
Okay. Okay.
How's that, John?
Thank you.
But John, you are muted.
Most likely I'll be doing it. So thank you.
Oh, okay.
I will bring her to you, John.
As soon as she starts to describe it, my heart says, oh, yeah, this one. So if this is what she has, feel the pulse, because it'll be really interesting. If she still has mono, and the pulse might be better, but if it's far enough in her body still, you can feel the pulse at a superficial level, and then feel for a really deep pulse, like deeper than you ever went before, and it'll be there like a big bass drum going. So slow, and it will be impossible because the superficial pulse will be rapid.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few illnesses where you can actually tell which pathogen by the pulse. It has this deep, really slow, barely functional pulse, and then this rapid kind of fluttery one. And she gets tired easily.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. She's at the exact age for it. Typically, Americans get it between age 14 and 20.
Yeah. She is a kind of more driven person. She's in 11th grade right now, so lots of stress in terms of college application. So she can do it. Like she put herself up in different classes and she always go. But once a class is over, she claps. She don't want to do this. She don't want to do that. So
yeah. Okay, it sounds like a classic case, and it is one of the first things you look for in that age group. A really cool study done by the U.S. military looked for antibodies for mono in people coming into the military, and something like 99% of the people coming in age 19 had mono, and they usually get it. It's extremely contagious. So people who are sharing a soda, the most common way to transmit it is by kissing. In fact, it's called the kissing disease.
Oh, right. Now
right.
I know. Yeah.
So very often after a first boyfriend or girlfriend, first romance, then they will get mono, especially when they break up and the emotional sadness sets in. And so their defenses are down and then they get this illness. So really fun.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
It's an American tradition. I had a patient. She was 40 years old. I was asked to come help. by her son. He went to school with my son because he said, my mother is dying. Can you come help? So I had just graduated school. And I thought, I don't know how to help somebody who's dying. So I go to see her. She can barely move.
Mm-hmm.
She's taking 3 different medications because her first doctor said, well, you're just stressed. So he gave her an antidepressant. The next one said, your work is stressful. So he gave her some calming medication. She was on 3 kinds of sedatives.
Mm-hmm.
And so she couldn't even barely move. She couldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm there in her living room, and all of her family has flown in because she's dying. She's going to be dead in a few days. She's 40 years old. They all speak Russian. Nobody speaks English. So I think, I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be here. This is nuts. But I have to show respect because here's the family. Here's the son and the parents. Everyone's scared. So I'm going to show respect. I'm going to hold her pulse for a really long time. So I'm holding the pulse. And when my daughter had mono, I was in acupuncture school. So I was feeling her pulse all the time. And I recognized this unique pulse. So I was feeling her pulse.
Wow.
I said, you have mono. And the family just looks at me. I say so the son is the translator. And I say, ask grandma, did she have this kind of cough? And I imitate this. It's in the sides. I imitate the cough. Did she have this cough in August? It is now November. So he asked grandma, and grandma goes, oh, yes, because we talked on the phone. Okay, then I know what she has. She has to stop taking the drugs. And then she talks for the first time. Oh, the drugs keep me alive. And I said, okay, you can keep 1. I don't care which one. You have to stop 2 of them, but they're killing you. And then I just told them she needs to eat oatmeal at least 10 times a day. And I'm going to go ahead and put the needles here and here. She was walking I said she will be walking within 10 days. And within 9 days, she was walking, talking, everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you need to call your doctor. Now, the reason the doctor didn't catch it, she was 40 years old because they don't have mono in Russia. The winters are too cold.
Okay.
The virus dies. It cannot survive in Russia. So I told her, ask your doctor, I want a blood test. He refused. I said, ask him again and say, you will sue if he doesn't do a blood test. So he did a blood test, and then he would not give her the results.
Wow.
She had to suggest she would sue again to get her own test results. And it showed she had a really high titer for mono.
Okay.
So I just wanted to confirm, for my own benefit, I want to confirm, but she was completely better. But the doctor didn't catch it because in the United States, mono is 14 to 19.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I don't think she has ever kissed, but maybe I'm wrong. So
Don't ask her about that.
no.
When she has things she wants to tell you, she will tell you. Never ask.
Yeah.
She's too old. Don't ask
Right.
anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't know whether you heard my other question or comment was, like when I was looking her lips, I thought, oh, they look better today, or they are worse today. So even message like that can translate into, oh, I have a problem, right, to her.
Yes.
I don't
Forget
know.
about it.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
Right. Yeah.
And she might be sensitive if you ask about her private life. That's why I purposely said it can be transmitted by sharing a drink.
Okay. Okay.
Drinking from the same straw. All
Uh-huh.
kinds of ways it can be transmitted.
Okay.
So don't ask her if she's kissing people. None of your business. None of your business. It might have
Great.
just been on a dare. Who knows? Or it could be from a straw. Seriously. But it's a wet transfer because
Okay.
it's not a very stable pathogen. So it's not like COVID where it's going through the air. It's usually a wet transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. To me, because it happened in the last few months, and she was on the I don't know the pill name, but it's kind of the to prevent the pregnancy. It's kind of hormone because her period is not regular, so the doctor prescribed this kind of things to regulate her period. So I was thinking whether it's related to that drug she's taking.
No, but you can have John fix the menstrual irregularity. John can fix that.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
No problem. No problem.
Okay. John, I will need your help.
Yeah. Okay. So John, the daughter also has menstrual irregularities, so they put her on birth control pills, which is so harsh on the body. So you're going to take care of that. I already told her you can take care of that. So I'm going to go now. It's noon.
Yes.
Okay.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Nice to meet you, JJ. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.